The sun beat down on the Israelites as they traversed the rugged terrain. The journey had been long and arduous, testing their endurance and faith at every turn. Each step forward was a testament to their resilience and unwavering belief in the promise that lay ahead. 40 years had passed since their exodus from Egypt, a period marked by trials and tribulations. The changing seasons bore witness to their relentless march as they moved from one encampment to another, always with the hope of reaching their destined homeland. 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, a time that seemed endless. The barren landscape stretched out before them, a constant reminder of the harshness of their journey. Yet they pressed on, driven by the vision of a land promised to their ancestors. Miraculously sustained by manna from heaven and water from a rock, they experienced divine provision in the most desolate of places. These miracles were not just acts of sustenance, but symbols of hope and divine favor, reinforcing their faith in God's promises. They were a people tested yet sustained by God's unwavering faithfulness. Each miracle was a reminder that they were not alone, that a higher power watched over them, guiding their steps and providing for their needs in the most unexpected ways. Now, finally, they stood on the precipice of the promised land, a moment that generations had longed for. The sight of the lush landscape before them was a stark contrast to the barren wilderness they had known for so long. A land flowing with milk and honey, rich and fertile, awaited them. It was a vision of abundance and prosperity, a place where they could finally settle and thrive, fulfilling the promise made to their forefathers. Jericho, a city fortified by towering walls, stood between them and their destiny. The imposing walls were a formidable obstacle, a stark reminder that their journey was not yet over. It was a formidable obstacle, a symbol of the challenges that lay ahead. The walls of Jericho were not just physical barriers, but also represented the fears and doubts that the Israelites had to overcome. Yet the Israelites marched forward, their hearts filled with a mix of trepidation and unwavering faith. They knew that the path to their promised land would not be easy, but their faith in God's promise gave them the courage to face the challenges ahead. They had witnessed God's mighty hand before, miracles that defied natural laws and provided for their needs in the most miraculous ways. These memories fueled their determination, reminding them that they were under divine protection. They knew He would deliver them once more. Their faith was not just in the promise of a land, but in the God who had proven His power and faithfulness time and again. Joshua, their leader, chosen by God to succeed Moses, sent 2 spies ahead. These men were tasked with gathering intelligence about Jericho and its defenses, a crucial mission that would determine their strategy for the impending siege. Their mission to gather intelligence about Jericho and its defenses. The spies knew the gravity of their task. The fate of the entire nation rested on their shoulders. The fate of the Israelites, their hopes and dreams of a homeland, rested on the shoulders of these 2 men. They moved with caution, aware that their discovery could jeopardize the entire mission. They slipped into the city unnoticed, disappearing into the labyrinthine streets. Their eyes keenly observing the city's defenses and the demeanor of its inhabitants, they gathered crucial information that would aid in the siege. Their eyes keenly observing the city's defenses and the demeanor of its inhabitants. They noted the strengths and weaknesses, the routines of the guards and the morale of the people, all vital pieces of information for their report. The spies' presence didn't go unnoticed for long. The alert guards soon became suspicious, and whispers of strangers in the city began to spread. News reached the king of Jericho that Israelite spies were within the city walls. The king, aware of the threat they posed, knew he had to act quickly to protect his city. Fear gripped the king's heart. He had heard whispers of the Israelites' God, a deity whose power was unmatched and whose followers were relentless. He had heard whispers of the Israelites' God, a God who parted seas and rained down fire. The stories of divine intervention and miraculous victories were well known, and they filled him with dread. A God who parted seas and rained down fire. The king knew that this was no ordinary enemy. He was up against a force that had the backing of a powerful deity. He knew he had to act swiftly. The king's decision would determine the fate of Jericho, and he could not afford to underestimate the threat posed by the Israelites and their God. Rahab, a woman known throughout Jericho for her trade, lived in a house built upon the city wall itself. Her home, perched high above the bustling streets, offered her a unique vantage point over the ancient city. From her window she could see the comings and goings of merchants, soldiers and travelers, each with their own stories and secrets. Her life had been a tapestry woven with threads of both darkness and light. Each thread represented a different chapter of her life, some filled with joy and others with sorrow. The intricate patterns of her experiences had shaped her into the woman she was. She had known hardship and sorrow, joy and despair. The loss of loved ones, the betrayal of friends, and the fleeting moments of happiness had all left their mark on her heart. Yet through it all, she had remained strong, her spirit unbroken. Life in Jericho had taught her to be resourceful, resilient, and perhaps a little cynical. The bustling markets and crowded streets were her training grounds, where she learned to navigate the complexities of human nature and the harsh realities of survival. Yet beneath the surface, a flicker of something more resided within Rahab, a quiet yearning for a life beyond the walls of Jericho, a life filled with purpose and meaning. She often found herself gazing at the sky, wondering if there was more to her existence than what she had known. She had heard whispers of the God of the Israelites, a God who offered not only protection but also redemption. These whispers reached her ears in the quiet moments of the night, filling her with a sense of curiosity and hope. She had heard tales of his miracles, of his love for his people and his judgment upon the wicked, stories of seas parting, walls crumbling, and lives being transformed by his power. These tales, though distant and foreign, resonated deeply within her. These stories, passed from traveler to traveler, sparked a glimmer of hope within her. They spoke of a God who saw beyond one's past, who offered a chance at redemption and a new beginning. Rahab found herself longing to know more about this God and his people. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows over Jericho, two strangers knocked on Rahab's door. The golden hues of the sunset bathed the city in a warm glow, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere. The strangers' arrival felt like a moment of destiny. They were weary from their journey and carried themselves with an air of urgency. Their clothes were dusty and their faces bore the marks of fatigue. Yet there was something in their eyes that spoke of a mission, a purpose that transcended their weariness. Rahab, ever perceptive, sensed they were not ordinary travelers. There was a certain intensity in their demeanor, a sense of determination that set them apart. She knew in her heart that these men were different, that they carried with them a significance she could not yet comprehend. These were the Israelite spies. Their presence in Jericho was a dangerous secret, one that could cost them their lives if discovered. Rahab understood the gravity of the situation, the risk they were taking by coming to her. Instinct told her to turn them away. The fear of being caught, the potential consequences, all weighed heavily on her mind. But there was also a part of her that felt drawn to them, a part that wanted to help despite the danger. Harboring enemies of the king was a crime punishable by death. The guards patrolled the city with vigilance, and any act of treason would be met with swift and brutal punishment. Rahab knew the stakes were high, that her life hung in the balance, yet something compelled her to offer them refuge. Perhaps it was the desperation in their eyes, or maybe it was the quiet voice within her heart, urging her toward an unknown destiny. She felt a strange sense of peace, a conviction that this was the right thing to do. Perhaps it was the desperation in their eyes, or maybe it was the quiet voice within her heart, urging her toward an unknown destiny. She felt a strange sense of peace, a conviction that this was the right thing to do. With a determined look, she made her decision, knowing that her actions could change the course of her life forever. Rahab ushered the spies into her home, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. She knew the risk she was taking, but something deep within her compelled her to act. The men, weary and desperate, looked at her with a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Concealing them on her rooftop, beneath stalks of flax laid out to dry, she worked quickly, her hands trembling slightly. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the city, and she knew time was of the essence. Every rustle of the wind, every distant shout made her heart race. Their presence was her secret, a secret that could cost her life. She had heard the stories of what happened to those who defied the king's orders, and the thought of being discovered sent chills down her spine. Yet she stood firm, her resolve unwavering. The king's soldiers, alerted to the spies' presence, were searching door to door. The sound of their boots echoed through the narrow streets, growing louder with each passing moment. Rahab's heart pounded in her chest as she listened to the commotion outside. When the king's men arrived at Rahab's door, their faces grim, she met them with a calm demeanor. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and opened the door. The soldiers' eyes bore into her, searching for any sign of deceit. "Yes," she said, "I saw the men you seek." Her voice was steady, betraying none of the fear that gripped her heart. She knew that one wrong word, one slip of the tongue, could spell disaster for her and the men she was hiding. They were here, but they have already left the city. She gestured towards the city gate, her movements deliberate and confident. The soldiers exchanged glances, their suspicion momentarily eased by her calm assurance. "If you hurry, you might still catch them." Her words spurred the soldiers into action, and they rushed towards the gate, their armor clanking as they moved. Rahab watched them go, her heart still racing, but a small smile playing on her lips. She pointed the soldiers towards the road leading out of the city, sending them on a wild goose chase. The dust from their hurried departure settled slowly, and Rahab allowed herself a moment of relief. She had bought the spies some time, but she knew the danger was far from over. Once the soldiers were gone, Rahab returned to the rooftop, where the spies lay hidden. She moved quickly, her steps light and cautious. The men looked up at her, their eyes filled with gratitude and a myriad of unspoken questions. "Why have you risked your life for us?" one of the spies asked, his voice filled with gratitude and bewilderment. The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their shared predicament. Rahab looked at them, her gaze steady. She had made her decision long before they had arrived at her door. Her faith had guided her, and now it was time to reveal the reason behind her actions. "I know that your God is the one true God," she said, "and that he has given this land to you." Her voice was filled with conviction, each word a testament to her unwavering belief. The spies listened intently, their expressions a mix of surprise and respect. "I have heard of his mighty deeds, of his deliverance of his people. I believe in him." Her words were simple yet profound. She spoke of the stories that had reached her ears, tales of miracles and divine intervention that had stirred something deep within her. It was a remarkable confession, a testament to the power of faith in the unseen. The room was silent, the weight of her words settling over them like a blanket. In that moment, they were bound by something greater than themselves. In that moment, a bond formed between Rahab and the spies, a bond forged in trust and shared belief. They were no longer strangers, but allies in a divine plan that was unfolding before their very eyes. The scarlet cord of hope had been woven, binding their fates together. The spies, astonished by Rahab's faith and her willingness to risk her life for them, confided in her. They shared the Israelites' plans for Jericho, describing the fear that had gripped the hearts of the city's inhabitants. "The people tremble at the mention of your God," they said. "They know that their defenses are useless against him." Rahab listened intently, her heart pounding in her chest. The fear that permeated Jericho was palpable. It hung in the air like a suffocating fog. But within Rahab, fear warred with a burgeoning hope. She had placed her trust in the God of the Israelites, a God who had a history of parting seas and toppling walls. "What will become of me and my family?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "When Jericho falls, we will be destroyed along with it." The spies, moved by her plight and her unwavering faith, offered her a way out. They made her a promise, a covenant sealed with a scarlet cord. "Tie this cord in your window," they instructed, "and when Jericho falls, you and all who are within your house will be spared." Rahab clung to the scarlet cord as if it were a lifeline. This simple piece of fabric represented hope in the face of impending doom. It was a tangible symbol of the covenant she had made with the God of the Israelites, a God who honored his promises. She gathered her family, her parents, siblings, and their families, and brought them into her home. Some were hesitant, skeptical of her newfound faith and the protection it offered. But Rahab, her voice unwavering, assured them, "The God of the Israelites is the one true God. He will save us." As darkness enveloped Jericho, Rahab tied the scarlet cord to her window, a beacon of hope visible against the night sky. It was a declaration of faith, a silent prayer whispered into the darkness. Her heart ached with the weight of her decision, yet she clung to the belief that she had chosen wisely. The fate of her family now rested on the promise of a God she had never seen, a God who spoke through whispers and dreams. For more stories like this, subscribe to the Bible Storyteller. Like and share. God bless you.